Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Creators Podcast. On today's episode, I'm really excited to share a conversation that I was able to have with Brian Curtin. Brian is the creative director of motion at Big. And I've been following Brian and have sort of paid attention to the work that he's been a part of for quite a few years now. And I was really excited to hear from Brian. First, he started following me on Instagram, and then from there, I reached out to him and invited him to be a part of a conversation. And he was excited to join, which I was over the moon about. So I really am excited to share this conversation with you. Brian is an extremely talented creative. He has created some incredible work alongside the people at Big Communications in Birmingham, Alabama, and he's also created a lot of passion projects through some of the side projects he does through Infectious Design. You can see that on his YouTube channel, Infectious Design, and as well as his other social platforms. But Brian is an extremely talented and experienced creative, and I really enjoyed this conversation, just learning a little bit about him as well as some of these projects that he's worked on. So, again, I'm excited to share this conversation with you because I really do think you'll enjoy it. Check it out. I really appreciate you being a part of Creating Creators Podcast today. You really encouraged me when you, first of all, followed me on Instagram. And then when I reached out to you, your response to me was just really encouraging at a time that I felt like I really needed the encouragement because I've struggled with doing this, really just any kind of extra work on top of my full-time job. And Creating Creators Podcast has been one of these, I guess I love doing it, but at the same time, it's a struggle. And what you said really encouraged me to sort of keep going. So that's a long way to say thank you, seriously, for being a
Yeah.
part of this and for your kind words and encouragement.
Well, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I think what's funny is even just hearing you say that, there's a lot of similarities just with the work that I do and the passion projects I've done, where you get it. Just hearing you say that, you get fulfillment out of it on one end, but man, it is a struggle and a battle to also do it with full-time job, other obligations, family stuff. Anyway, so yeah, I think you had mentioned it was your last one. Maybe that's what it was. You're like, I think this is my last, or something like that. And I hate it because they were so well done. And I think I also mentioned I too, except you're doing it and you're doing it great. I had thought about a similar structure of just I've met and worked with a lot of interesting, talented people, and I enjoy hearing um, the what inspires them. How does their process work? What are the struggles that they go through? The things that they love to do. That stuff to me is always fascinating. And so I think when I saw this, yeah, I think it got served up on Instagram, and I was like, this is great. You do a really good job of asking good questions. You just seem like a kind person, right? And so I enjoyed listening to the conversation. And the last thing I'll stop rambling. It was also very entertaining and enjoyable to watch people that I've either worked with. I would say the majority of the people you've interviewed, I've worked with at some point or come in contact. And so it was fascinating. Some of them I haven't seen in years. And just to hear where they were, what they were doing, all this stuff. And I mean, like Billy Ivy, worked with Billy Ivy, worked with Kirby many years ago. And so it was good to see and hear how he was doing. And anyways, I love what you're doing. So that's what I think. Yeah, I was hoping to encourage you, not necessarily be on camera, but but I appreciate you asking me. I was just telling my wife, I was like, this. I'm only here right now, one, because I hope I can bring something to the conversation of this collection you're doing. One, I think you're doing it really well, so I feel like I'm in good hands. But deep down, and a lot of people that know me is like I I'm an introvert, and I accept that. And it's taken me what 40 years to um, be like, hey, that's okay. That's just who I am. So this is me stepping out a little bit, but I think it helps grow too.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm done. There we go.
Well, no, I really appreciate it, and your kind words came in at a good time, and
Thanks,
we're
brother.
here today talking because in part because of that. So
Yeah,
I really do appreciate it. And in regards to your work, you've sort of alluded a little bit to that, and we'll definitely look at more of it in a little bit more detail. But my coworker and I, Cole Peavy, we were just yesterday in the office looking at some more of your work, just sort of in preparation for this, and huge fans of what you've been a part of. And you mentioned, actually, let me go ahead and reference this because you mentioned in your response to me on Instagram, like it's been a long time. I think is what you said to me, and I, when you said that, I didn't think that you would even remember when you and I interacted, to be honest. I mean, because how many sets are you on and some random guys there? But the fact that and I'm assuming this is what you remember is when you were on the set for a teacher recruiting video for the state of Alabama, and you were actually using a school in Shelby County, and I
hmm
work for Shelby County, and I got the opportunity to be on set. And the main thing that stuck out in my mind is you were Brian and I was Brian, and I think that's what sort of like stuck out in my mind. We really didn't talk, but a brief period of time even then. So I don't know. Is that something you typically do? Do you remember people really well?
No, not at
Okay.
all. I probably couldn't remember the talent's name that day that I was directing. No, that I actually I have to memorize them days before with like the call sheet. No, I think what I remember, yeah, I really don't, but I think it goes back to, I think after meeting you, I was just like, that guy seems really cool, right? I don't know what it is. You just have a good vibe. I don't know. So yeah, I definitely remember you. I actually, when I sent you that message, I was kind of, I'll just set this straight here, I guess, on set. And I've been trying to get better about it. What's the Kanye quote? I'm not angry. I'm just focused. Sometimes I was hoping that you want to be like, yeah, that was that guy that kind of brushed me off and just seemed too busy to say hi or whatever. Because
No, I
I'm one of those people. I'm so like a lot of us, you just want to do the best job. If I'm there to do something, I'm going to make it the best, regardless of how much I. Um, and so, anyways, yeah, I was afraid of like, oh no, did I chat long enough? Or anyways, so
no,
hopefully I was friendly. I think it was brief, but
yeah, I didn't
yeah,
feel like ignored or slighted
good.
at all.
Okay.
Like I
Oh,
felt the whole team there was really incredible. Kristen Dober was
oh
really
yeah,
welcoming. Neil Dearman was really great. He let
yes.
me be like right there, looking over
Uh-huh.
his shoulder, which was really cool. And it was a safe place to be out of the shot, so that was
Yeah,
always good.
Neil, man, he brings good energy. Man, yeah, all those are all great people that bring just confidence and good energy to the
Yeah,
set.
Caleb Zorn was on that one.
Caleb, yeah.
He was camera operator, so it was a really great opportunity for me. I'm usually a one man show now with my coworker Cole. We show up in as a pair usually, but it was really neat to see sort of on that level and with that many people, sort of how the machine sort of works.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. All right, that's a lot of I guess not clearly directed kind of discussion. So I try to keep myself a little bit on pace, and I definitely want to respect your time.
Yeah.
So we'll try to stay as I'll try to stay as focused as possible. You, by all means, carry the conversation whichever direction you want it to go,
Yeah.
and I think this will be a good one. I'm excited for it, so I appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and we will be punched in at times on this with your camera, but I also edit in post with the look and stuff. So let's go ahead and start off with you just telling us a little bit about yourself. Who is Brian? And I want to
Oh,
say Curtin, but it's
yeah.
Curtin, right? Like
Curtin.
it's
Yeah.
not like what hangs on the windows. It's
It,
Curtin.
yeah. Yeah. Anyways, it's amazing how many. I'm not going to get into this, but my name, people will spell it brain. So
Oh yeah,
brain, and then you add the A in the curtain, so it's brain curtain. Anyways,
yeah. People
but
always
yes,
ask
you
me,
got it right.
is it an I or a Y? And I say I
That's
answer to either one. Sorry,
yes.
I've got to turn this feature off on my Mac. I don't. It drives me
I don't know.
crazy.
At this point now, you just need to leave it. It's like a thing. It's the
I know. It just randomly pops up.
yeah.
So, all right. So tell us
Okay,
a
sorry.
little
Yeah.
bit about yourself.
Who? Yeah. Uh. Yeah. Okay. Concise. Here we go. First and foremost, I've been a dad for what 7 years now. I've got a 7-year-old boy. Been a husband for 16 years now. Um, and then besides those, which are my most important jobs, um, I live kind of in this world of these two places, which Brian Curtin at Big. I've been working at. We're actually going through rebrand right now, so we're called BigCom. I've been there 17 years, and started as a graphic designer. That's what I went to school for. I actually changed majors when I was in college. I was going to do physical therapy because I wanted money. And then I realized that that was not my. Some people, you just know you're programmed a certain way. And I was always good at art at younger, and people told me you should do graphic design. Anyway, so I switched, and to me, it was like the classes they weren't classes. It was now a passion thing. Anyways, and then I was like, cool, I'll just be a starving artist, but hey, I'll enjoy what I do. But if you work at ad agency or whatever, you can kind of find your way, find a career. So started it big as a graphic designer, moved up to an art director, basically all those phases. And throughout those years, I dabbled in video. Right, I just thought it was fun. I loved visual effects, and that's when I did my first. It was a lightsaber video that I put on YouTube back in
Yeah.
2008. And I remember some of the creative directors saw that at Big and were like, why are we not making videos? I was like, I don't know. And so that's kind of when Big started its in-house video. Because they'd been doing videos, but they'd outsource things. Anyways, and then kind of became what's a motion designer. Now I'm creative director of motion. So basically just kind of touch everything video within Big. Anyways, that's the corporate side of me, and then the other side is, I guess, Infectious designer. It's kind of my YouTube, which is my passion projects, right? And I've done those over the years with there's a few good friends in those photos,
Sorry, I
which
just
we
clicked
all
off of it
just.
as you
Oh, no, that's
referenced
fine.
it.
We have always just it's always been inspired by video games or sci-fi, and we all work together. And it's one of those where I felt like a few other people you interviewed talking about spec ads, and it's where you're just pulling anything and everything, and there's no shortness of passion and excitement being infused in it. That's the only way those things even get done, if you really believe in the idea. And and so that's when all those projects all happen after hours. And once again, I need to also thank my wife Joy for putting up. I'm sure, Brian, you might know this, that your family is one of your biggest support groups, because life has to keep moving on while you're zeroed in on this crazy project, or the uh, continuing this thing, right, that you're doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
anyways, that. And then a small tidbit, and then I think that'll sum it all up. The only thing that I've probably been doing more than the 17 years at Big is when I was younger, I actually played soccer through college. I actually wanted to be like a professional soccer player, but 20 years of that, your body starts to get to hurt. And I told myself I'd like to be able to walk when I'm 40. So I'm walking, so I'm good. I did. I guess I achieved my thing. But
So,
anyways,
so
that's
I
it.
I hear you saying a couple of things that seem to suggest that you are currently 40. Is that correct?
I am. Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
So, where did you go to high school?
Bob Jones High School up in
Okay.
Madison,
Yeah,
near,
yeah.
near Huntsville.
Yeah, I grew up in the Hueytown area and
Okay.
graduated in 2001. I just turned 40 myself. So I turned 40 back in July. So I guess I say
Congratulations.
just, I'm
Or
about to turn
sorry.
41. Do what?
Yeah,
What was,
congratulations, or I'm sorry.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hurt everywhere now. Just
yes,
wake up in the morning hurting. Didn't do anything to
yeah.
earn the hurt, but definitely hurting.
But we're so much wiser, right? Yeah.
Something my kids don't
Something
think
like that.
so.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
you said a 7-year-old son?
7-year-old. Yep.
Yeah. So I have 16-year-old twin daughters as well
Ooh.
as a 11-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. And more and more they think I'm a complete and total idiot. But that's okay. I mean, I think eventually they'll see that either yes I was, or maybe they'll see it as oh, he wasn't quite as much of an idiot as I thought he was. So
They will appreciate you when they're 30. And I'm holding on to since he's 7, he still wants to be around me.
yeah.
That like that. But I'm seeing it slowly, he's cool without me. So
Yeah, at 7 to 11 has been really fun with my son. I mean, with all the kids, that seems to be a really sweet time when they're
yeah.
still that little bit young, but then definitely independent. You start seeing their sense of humor, and sometimes you see how it's too much like yours.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So yeah,
Well, my actually, so the most recent uh, side project, passion project I did was this Fallout one, and he's actually in it. He's the kid that's looking up at a nuclear atom bomb going off in the distance or whatever, and
yeah,
it's really nice. I really enjoyed. Oh, and my wife and my son are in there. It was fun putting them in there because it's just fun to see him. And I think he was 5 or 6 at that age. So you're like, oh, that was a
yeah.
time of his. Oh, okay, nice. You got it.
Yeah,
There he is. Yeah, he's so
that is
cute.
such a beautiful,
Um,
like the beginning to this video is
yeah.
incredible. It really is. I mean all of it's really great, but the beginning just feels so nostalgic and so beautifully shot. So
Oh,
props on all of that.
there's my wife there. So I got the whole family in there. And
Nice.
I think I bribed him for like some kind of like electronic dog toy or whatever. But as he
Of
gets older,
course.
if I'm going to use him, I probably have to bribe him with more expensive things. So, anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
um,
that's a really cool like just beginning to it. And I love the fact that you've used your son. And that one's a really cool video. I used my son in some videos that he doesn't think is as cool now. So
that's, funny.
there was one where he was supposed to be writing a love letter, and it looks like it's this young lady in the shot, which is actually his sister. Um,
Mm,
and
clever.
then he ends up shooing her away, and then he moves over, and the love letter's actually to his to Fortnite. So yeah,
Nice. Okay. That's exactly where he's at right now. Yeah.
yeah, fun
That's
fun
awesome.
times. All right,
Yeah.
let's move on. And you mentioned this already, the fact that you are the creative director of motion. Can you tell me a little bit of like what does that actually mean,
Yeah.
and then what does that practically actually look like for you on sort of a day to day?
Yeah. That is always a great question. Titles, what do they mean? I'll try to sum it up. So, yeah, like I said, kind of have a groundwork in design, right? And everything I've learned with video kind of just self-taught, right? But believe it or not, those two things go together really well. And I guess you would say my skills, technical skills, is a blend of yes, I can be on a set and direct just purely live action. That's all, right? And see it all the way through. I actually like to edit the stuff that I shoot. Um, Maybe I can talk about more of why I do that later. But Um, but then I can also take just graphics and do motion design, motion graphics, right? No live action. And then the third part is kind of when you're mixing all of that. You have live action in there with visual effects or design on top. Anyways, so I'm kind of dangerous in all three of those departments. Um, so that is some of the work I'm doing on a daily basis. But when you think of like creative director of motion, one of the reasons I can't say different, I can't say anything else because of like I've never worked for a production company. I've only been at an advertising agency. But one of the reasons I liked being on the kind of in the ad agency world is you're kind of a little bit on the more front end of the concepting phase. And not saying I'm in every meeting helping the concept be developed, or I do like to throw ideas out there, but at least I have some sense that I'm able to, if that makes sense, have input on the front end of just what is the concept of this video or thing before it is even sent off to be made, right? Or we set off for production. Um, so I guess that's, I don't know if that explains it. Creative director of motion. I'm also sitting in those meetings of just why are we doing this? There's been times where, client will say, yeah, we need 10 different videos for the thing or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool. We'll take that information. We come back and we say, we're just going to suggest you don't need 10 videos. You need really two that do this, right? And then here's why. And then here's the concept that helps solve the issue. And
I
then
feel
we kind of
like
shift gears into production, right? Okay, now how do we actually go make the thing? So
I feel like Big is really good, or seems from the outside looking in, seems really good at sort of helping companies figure out what they really need, which I guess is really the idea for any, um, marketing or branding or video kind of service organization. The idea is that companies come to you and say, "This is what we need," and it's not necessarily the what, but it's the why behind it is what people have to
yes,
get to. But Big seems to be really good at that. And
yeah,
I'll say this, like Billy Ivy made the statement, I think, that he talked about being a creative director, and he said that basically he's the oldest writer in the room. And they give him the title creative director. So I didn't know if that applied to creative director of
oh man.
motion as well. So
Well, I have been there long enough to where I don't know what other name they could give me.
yeah,
So yes, I think there's definitely some truth to that.
VP of
Uh,
motion.
there we go. Yeah. Yeah,
That
yeah. Anyways, it's weird, and even at like, going back to, yes, Big is really good about that, and that's because you have people in there who are just passionate about their work and getting results for people that you don't have. What we try to do is, yes, we want this. Okay, we go make that. Right? It's going back to the why, and I think that's really important. I would like to say that's one of the great things about Big is we ask those questions. Um, and then I just lost track. You were
no, no,
asking
you're
me.
you're good. The main thing was sort of what is
I,
the creative director of motion, and then I believe I also, sorry, I actually have to look closer at my own slide there. And then I said, how did you become one? I think you sort of already touched on that a little bit,
oh,
but specifically, like, how did you get involved in? I mean, you talked about doing graphic design, and then you talked about how you did video. But how did you really bridge that gap to where, hey, I design, graphics in general, and
yeah.
then now I'm animating graphics or doing some of the sort of video compositing that you do or that you started doing, even with that lightsaber video.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's hard to. I mean, really, and it goes back to like me being at Big for 17 years. It really has just evolved over the time, slowly. I kind of found myself, and I think this is for most creatives, as you're working your way through what you want to do, you find out what you are good at, and usually what you're good at, you like, right? Um, and so you're like, oh, I'm good at that. Okay, I'll keep kind of pushing that way. But I kind of find myself bouncing off of things and then also becoming, okay, what are some things that I can do that within a team I can just be valuable, right? And I felt like that kind of came with um, at Big when I was there. There was already enough designers and art directors. We weren't doing video stuff, but I liked dabbling in it. So once we kind of did a few motion graphic things and they were, I guess, people liked them or successful, it was like, for me, I was like, well, okay, I'm going to keep leaning into that direction. And, part of it, like I said, I did actually, I enjoy animation. I love seeing things come to life. For me, it's what you get to make it move and typically put music to it or sound. And so it's just all of that coming together. Uh, I, I guess I gravitated to more than just here's a print ad that says a lot in one photo, but um, it can't sometimes can't make you feel the way you would, when you see a spot with a great song, right? And there are no words, and it just takes you off somewhere. So yeah. Anyways, I guess that's it. I enjoyed it. I felt like I was good at it, and I started to lean into it. Um, and then while you're doing that, I think is where you kind of learn new tricks and expand on, like, okay, for instance, one thing I'll say is I am not, and probably it's just my personality, I am not great with directing talent with dialogue. Like, here's a conversation, a 30-minute conversation between these people, and I need them to deliver it the way that I don't know. And I also don't really enjoy it. So that's a place that I don't push towards. But it's like, hey, we need a 30-second, 60-second of some stuff we're shooting right now. It's just outdoors, people hiking, biking, rock climbing. I love thinking of just the shots and how do we show this story of them getting out of the car and going to the here, and they're now it ends at the sunset as the music drops out, right? It's like that's where I find myself most comfortable and enjoy, and
Do
typically
you
do
get
my best.
behind the camera itself?
I used to back in like I mean probably 8 years ago. Yes, and I used to. Now here's the interesting thing too. Um, Going back to kind of why try to edit my own footage is maybe it's a control issue I have. I used to not trust anybody to hold a camera because I know the shot I want, so I'll just go get it, right? And I will say I worked 3 or 4 years with Caleb Zorn at Big, and maybe he helped me a little bit let go, right? And one of those where, okay, nobody's going to get, I mean, I can explain to Caleb, he can't always understand what's in my brain, right, of what I want to get. But sometimes letting go and letting him kind of inject some of like, well, I see it from this angle, whatever. Um, to me, there's usually a better outcome, right? Because it's collaboration, the essence of collaboration. Um, so he I think helped me kind of let go and say, okay, I'm going to explain it to you. We might shoot it 2 or 3 times, but at some point I have to let go and trust that he's okay with the shot, and if he's okay with it, and it's close to what I was envisioning, then um, that's it. And there's times when I get back later to the edit, and I'm like, oh God, thank God Caleb got it from that angle because the other one was not working. The one that I wanted, right, or thought I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really okay. So I don't. And I used to be one of those kind of people who loves all the new camera tech and stuff. Keeping track of it.
Oh yeah.
Black magic and 5D and all this. And then I think I just is when I just got older and tired and couldn't keep up with it. So it's one of those where I love trusting people who know their stuff, right? And I can then just be more of express the tone, right, and the vibe and the look, and then have that go through somebody else's filter. Um, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I love the animated graphics that I've seen from you in some of the, especially the stuff that I've seen you. I think you've done through Big. I'm not sure if you do much of that through Infectious Design, but it's just really incredible what you've done. A lot of the soccer stuff, the Beham
Oh
Legion,
yeah.
like the animated graphics I've seen in that, even, and we'll look at this a little bit later, but even the what is it, the Daytona 500, the video
Yeah.
you did for that, like the some of that's not so much like animated graphics, but just the layering and compositing inside of the video. It's really incredible and looks beautiful. And then some of it I found out later by looking at your Behance. I noticed
Yeah.
that like a lot of that wasn't as much compositing as I thought it was. A lot of that was those like metal images, which
Oh
we'll
yeah.
look
Yeah.
at here in just a moment. But that was really cool. Like anyway, all that to say, I
Yeah.
think your animated graphics and your editing is really incredible and something that I enjoy watching.
So I'll add to that just real quick. Going back to typically you like things that you're good at. I don't know how to explain it. I don't really like editing, but I feel like I'm good at it. I don't know if people have those things where you're like, yeah, I don't like sitting and sifting through tons of footage and right. I mean, yes, there's some kind of, and I'm, that's also what I like about these interviews that you're doing is people are pretty honest and transparent, and that's good to hear. Anyways, yeah, I don't editing to me is pretty grueling. There's the yes, you feel good once it starts to come together. Like okay, all right, I see how this is working, and I'm digging this. But um, anyways, that's one of those things. I don't know. I feel like I'm good at editing, but I don't like doing it. So uh, and just on a slight tangent of that, some people or somebody's asked me, what's your favorite thing you like to write? Like, is it directing? Is it editing? Is it just strictly motion graphics? What if you could pick your one thing? And the weird thing is, when I think about it, and I still haven't figured out the right way to express it, is oddly, none of those actions I don't really like. I don't like sitting in front of a computer, to be honest. Like, I don't know if most people do. Maybe. Um, uh, I don't like spending hours moving a pixel right to get the right movement for the motion graphics thing. Um, but in an odd way, I like it because of the it makes the thing at the end,
Yeah,
right? And maybe
yeah.
that's how everybody really feels. But when I've thought about it, it's like, yeah, I don't like really directing either. But when there's a vision and I believe in it and I want to see that thing come to life, it's like, okay, I gotta go do that thing that brings that to life, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I think
kind of a weird thought.
no, I think some people would say that the process is more enjoyable than the result, but I mean, what's the
Oh,
point in the
that's
process if you don't have the result, right?
there you go.
So
Oh, well, now that makes me feel really shallow. Like, is it
no,
just about the result, right?
no, no.
Um,
I think
no,
I think I would imagine it's sort of the, especially considering the teams that you work with. I mean, very few times, probably even in your infectious design stuff, it seems like you're not working solo. And even whenever you started, it seemed like you had that team of people,
oh yeah,
that were in those earlier photos. So I think whenever you're working in a group like that, what's really beautiful is the fact that everyone's effort came together. Everyone's blood, sweat, and tears came
yeah,
together to make this final product. So I do see the almost the greater joy in that culminating
yeah.
product than it is the blood, sweat, and tears at times. So,
Yeah.
not to
Well, and
mention the
that's
amount of frustration
yeah.
we all deal with at times when a computer crashes or software
Oh
doesn't
man,
work the way it's
yeah.
supposed to.
No,
So,
that's a good call out. Yeah, no, I mean that definitely is, and I think maybe I'm just referencing the technical things that have to get done to make these things come right, like the edit, the action of this, the building the prop or whatever to have it in the shoot or whatever. But yeah, no, it is. Yes, I would say being able to make something come to life with a good group of people, and then all be able to say, look, look, we made the thing, we did, right? Look how awesome that is, right? I don't know. I think there's some kind of camaraderie in there for sure.
Definitely, definitely. All right, so we've talked a lot about a little bit of the work that you've done, but I would love to hear from you, just in general, like describe, especially in the sense of the infectious design. I would love to hear a little bit more of how you describe your work. And I've got a few images here, and we'll pull up. I would love to pull up your Behance and look through some of it, as well as probably your YouTube content, just because I think it is really amazing, the work that you do. But just real quick, if you want to address specifically any of the images you see here, or if you just want to talk
Yeah.
about your work in general.
Well, yeah. So the infectious designer stuff, it's interesting. None of that stuff, just even the group of us who kind of started doing that. Um, Oddly, it was never. I don't know that the intention was just to make something cool, really, right? Like that was the. It was, even like the Darth Punk. It's like we'd always had this idea of, okay, you take Star Wars and mix it with Daft Punk. That's just kind of awesome. Let's, oh, cool. Okay, I found this guy that can chrome these helmets for pretty cheap. Okay, cool. Let's. I love LEDs and lights and smoke. Yes. Okay, let's figure out how to program some lights into these masks. Anyways, yeah, and so it goes from there, and then it just becomes let's make this. Anyways, so even beyond that, all of those projects, and like the most recent one, which the Fallout 76 one, which of course is my favorite and most accomplished right now, probably because it's the most recent. All of these come from a place of there's this idea that pops into my head, or at least, and I kind of run it through this thing of like, oh, that would be cool. But let me sit on it for a minute, right? There's this guy, Will Nash, is a senior editor at Big, and I'd go into his office and talk to him about this Fallout thing, and he'd hear me listen. He'd listen to it. I'd leave 2 weeks, a month. I'd come back and say, man, I've got these ideas. Um, Anyways, I think it was probably he listened to me talk about it for almost like 2 years before he was like, dude, you got to do it, man. Stop talking about it. But that's kind of how I work with those is if it keeps coming back, um, then it's like, okay, we got to figure out how to make this come to life. Um, and I have to do that because, I think if you just ran at everything that you were just like, oh, that sounds cool, let's go do that, you'd burn out real quick.
How many people were involved in making this Fallout? Because
So
this is a conceptual trailer, right? I mean, it's not a short film. You shot it just for the purpose of the trailer, or did you shoot it for the purpose of something more?
just for the trailer. Some of our older shorts, like there's one Beyond Black Mesa, which is
Yeah,
inspired by Half Life. It was 12 minutes long. Also goes back to knowing your strengths. I wish I was a better writer. Most of my shorts, there's another one, Killzone. I would have benefited a lot if I really collaborated with somebody to write a better script. Because most of the all of those 12-minute shorts, they needed to be this. At least for me, for
yeah.
the things that I would enjoy is like I just want 2 to 3 minutes of the most beautiful shots that allude to a deeper story. Right? You could watch this and totally get the like, oh, I see how this could be a longer form. If that was ever to happen, I would need help to make the longer form. Um, but also, this, keeping it shorter helps a little bit manage the size of the production, right? If you're not actually shooting for 6 days and capturing dialogue and stuff, um, you can kind of just go get the I don't know, the beauty shots. So that's kind of what I had, kind of this epiphany with this one, where I was like, no, I'm not going to do a short. I'm just going to do I guess you'd call it a fake trailer. Um, and in reality, this project, I mean, it's really not that many people, 20 people maybe we had probably 6 or 7 people on set. I mean, a lot of these are just friends jumping in these suits.
Falling in these suits
Yeah,
sometimes.
falling into. Oh man, those are the bloopers are great. Um, uh, and one of the things that hinged on this project of me even doing it was I wanted to have. It's called the power armor. It's that big metal suit.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, this guy Danny. Um,
Sorry,
uh,
can I interrupt you just one
yeah.
second? When I talked to it was John Champion with Champion Lighting and Grip. He talked about that spec ad that they did with the car commercial with
Mhm.
Sean Patrick Kirby and Cedar Creative, and he talked about sitting in the back seat of that car. They wanted the woman's hair to blow, and he said he was in the car with a blower and was blowing her hair back.
Yeah.
And I see you here on set with a blower. I'm like, evidently, the trick to a lot of things on set is to have a blower with you.
You, yes, that's one of those essentials. You have to keep it on set, you know. Even
Sorry,
if you
I
don't have anything
interrupted.
planned. No, it's fine. If you don't have anything planned, you'll end up using it for something.
Oh, definitely. But you were talking about the big giant
Um,
suit
yeah, the
that
big giant.
that was,
Yeah,
yeah,
I told myself I was like, we can somehow that thing. We can somehow
yeah,
figure out how everything else works. But I really, that needs to be in here. And I think, I was just scouring the internet. I think I found them on Instagram. And a lot of people have made these suits, and some of them just are like off, like the scale's off or something's not right.
right.
This guy made a perfect one. And so, of course, I reached out, hey, man, I'm doing this thing. I probably sounded crazy. But he was like, yeah, let's do it. So I think he lives in North Carolina. Um, Helped transport it all the way down here. I just feel like that was one little thing that kind of added, a lot of production value.
It's amazing to me the number of people. The more that I've been a part of just this industry in general, there's so many people that are ready and willing to just jump on board with things. All you have to do is ask. I mean, I tell that to kids all the time, even in regards, like whenever I'm talking to students, even in getting involved in this industry, I'm always like, just go and reach out to somebody. Instagram has been amazing for me, just being able to DM somebody and ask, very much like I did with you. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
there's so much access and opportunity for people. You just have to reach out, you know? So,
I mean, I'm thankful for anybody that helps out. And I always kind of, I guess the things that I've helped out with, what helps is when you see the person or the people who are making it and they are just passionate and believe in making this thing, right? It's easier to get behind, right? You're like,
yeah.
okay, I like what they're seeing and what they're envisioning. And they're going to make it happen. So, yeah, how can I help? It's great. Yeah, it is great.
Can we talk about the Daytona
Yeah.
video? And I know this is, from what I understand, this is one you did with through Big, right?
Mhm.
And can you tell me a little bit of sort of the process, I guess, with conceptualizing what was going on in this video or what would go on in this video?
Yeah. So this is just going back to the old tintype photos are just cool. And it's a cool process because I want to say the way, oh God, I'm going to butcher this. Somebody's going to correct me. The way the image is put on the metal, it's basically burned in with the chemicals
Yeah.
and the way it works and the light and stuff. Um, and I think so. Oh boy, this is one of those where at when we got the brief, we were so excited. It was just going to be a fun thing. We had so many ideas, and there was one that started off with this fire, right? It was this kind of fire focused. It's the burning desire to win, right? And then we also had this tin type thing, and then it kind of became this meshing them together, right? Like that photo right there.
Yeah.
It's the stands and the cars, but it literally like that's just the tintype, but it looks like fire almost. And
when
um,
when I saw this shot at the very beginning, I think it's towards the beginning of the video. When I saw that shot of the of that photo, I thought, what all layers has he put onto this image? And then only to find out that's the way the image looks, because it looks like some type of photo compositing that you had possibly done. There's the
yeah,
image that I was talking about. My
so
coworker and I were literally going frame by frame looking at this video, and that was before I found the behind the scenes stuff that you had put on Behance. And it was really cool to realize that, no, that's actually the way the photo looked,
mhm.
right out of the chemical bath, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, of course, throughout that edit, there's probably some overlays and stuff going on,
Right.
but yes, we really did. Uh, I guess develop those photos, and it's just great that they literally turned out like that, and it kind of just reinforced this fusion of fire and this tintype process. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and this is one of the okay. So another thing, uh, I guess in the ad agency world, you sit around, you come up with a lot of concepts, or even just I mean I call them gimmicks, but they're not. But there's like more of like what's the technique, what's the thing for this video, right? This is kind of tintype and fire. The client doesn't always go for it. Cool, I'm going to put that in my back pocket. And so I feel like we had been sitting on this tintype process thing for a while, and sometimes you just need the right project to pop up, right? And it was like, this is the one. And then it was, yeah, Fox Sports that we were working with. They were like, yes, we love this. Okay, right. And then just go make it happen. So,
Were y'all given a lot of files, that were already captured, or did y'all go out and capture new files? Because from what I understand, this is like early 2000s, or maybe
mhm.
like early or maybe late 2000s, before the 2010 era.
So yeah, so what we did on it was kind of a combination of we actually shot photos of photos.
Right.
So that a lot of those right there are photos that we blew up, put them on a wall, and then used the tintype process to shoot it. Um, so it's one of those where yeah, we couldn't really shoot Dale Earnhardt uh, or Jimmy Johnson with it. So,
Right.
um, but the process gave us enough character on those shots to where it didn't feel like oh it's just a photo of a photo.
Did
Um,
No, definitely not. And this is such a great moment here.
yeah,
The Allisons. I'm from Hueytown, and so you have Bobby Allison here. That whenever he gets in the fight,
yeah,
I was actually looking at this not too long ago, because Cole was working on he does videos, but then he also does music, and so he was working on writing a song, and we came across this image. Um,
it's
anyway,
great.
it was really cool to then see this image used in your video. Let me
Yeah,
ask you this: did you edit this entirely?
hmm yeah,
Amazing, dude. I love
yeah,
it. The edit is so clean.
yeah. Well, and it's one of those where I mean, I don't even know if I call it an. I mean, it is an edit, but in a weird way, it's like motion graphics too, right?
Right.
It's almost an animated piece in a weird way. Geez, I couldn't even tell you the process. I mean, yes, I definitely take things into probably Premiere and just at least get the structure, and then it becomes well, it's one of those things where okay, what's the music? We went through tons. Oh my god, of music options, right? And so you'll get this edit or this you know pacing that you're liking and then the musical shift, or
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Oh, we're going to use a different artist." And you're like, "Okay, cool."
Well, I saw Eric Chapman is responsible for the mix, at least. So I'm assuming, how does that process work? Because I myself, I mean, very limited is my experience with working with me doing the edit and somebody else doing the music. I mean, Cole and I will do that, occasionally, but usually it's me editing the video and it's me sort of doing the sound design or the music. How is that process sort of going back and forth with you and somebody like Eric? Um,
Yeah. So, and also this version you're looking at, and most of the stuff that I'll post on Vimeo, maybe it's 50%. This is the director's cut. So this is different music than what was used on the one that um, Fox Sports requested.
okay.
But the way it works, I mean, this is one where I wanted to add a few extra textures and a few shots that didn't fit in the original one, and this song um, to me really fit well. So I want to do my version of it. But basically, I mean, with this, I put the song in. I typically will find some cheap sound effects for just moments where I'm trying to convey. I want something here. I want there to be a riser, or it drops out here, or here you only hear the sizzle of the fire. Um, and then Eric does a great job of like he will take that. It's basically one of those kind of going back to like letting go of control with Caleb getting the shot. Um, what icing does Eric put on the cake? To add to it. So yeah, I'll usually have an idea of the music or whatever and the direction, and then it's kind of handing it away and seeing how it comes back. And Eric and I have worked. Uh, he worked on the Killzone short I did, um, and so we've worked together before. So I love Eric. He does a great job, and
Yeah,
I clearly nailed it. So yeah,
yeah, he seems to be probably, at least in the Birmingham area, one of the main sort of sound guys. I mean, I see him everywhere. I see him
oh
with
yeah,
Billy Ivy all the time. Um, I, I've recently, there's a guy out in Tuscaloosa, George Edmondson. He owns Seed Creative, and he was just talking about how he was talking with Eric Chapman, uh, basically consulting with him about the kind of equipment that he's going to get for some documentary that he's working on soon. So it's
yeah,
really, he seems to be sort of the at least the local specialist maybe
yeah, oh
on
yeah,
whenever it comes to audio. But then he's also an incredible photographer, and from what I hear, I've never met him personally, but from what I hear, just a great guy. So hopefully
yeah.
I can have him on sometime soon.
Well, I'll just say one other thing. And I think I may have talked to him about this. Um, and yeah, I would say that's a good way to characterize him, specialist. S- Sound design is a weird thing. It's not Foley, if that makes sense.
No,
Like, and that's one thing
definitely.
I've battled with just throughout my whole career of finding people. And Eric gets it where, okay, I need this moment. I need the car engine to rev up or whatever. It's not just finding a car engine revving up. It's a low tone with a growl into a thing. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And trying to express that to some people, we're like, well, no, it's an engine. I have an engine in there and it's revving up. And you're like, well, yeah, but there needs more layers, right? Where it's like it's not that actual sound. It's actually you're not using that sound at all. Using a bunch of other sounds to imply that. Sorry, that gets me. It's
No, no,
and I feel
that
like that's like Eric's a person who gets it, but there are not many. If there's anybody out there who is like looking to fill a gap, also then again, it's not there's not maybe not tons of that type of work here, but I swear that there is a gap for those type of people. Um,
well,
you can find people that can edit and shoot and do the things direct, but man, sound design. So
I've tried to do, sound design on my own. I mean, that's what, just out of necessity, you almost have to,
yeah,
especially when you're a one man show. Uh, but, but it's so difficult, like you're saying, to find. I was literally just putting one in the other day. I had this like belly flop competition of this video I was doing, and so I just put a couple of shots in it, and I wanted the sound of something slapping the water.
hmm,
And the first one, I found this sound. I was, oh, that'll work. And so I put it in there. The first one sounded good. It did not. work for the other ones. Um,
Hmm.
like for some reason it was something visual. It's like
Yeah,
visually this sound doesn't make sense for this, and it may have been the angle that it was coming from. It may have been sort of the general tone of it that it just
yeah,
didn't fit, but it fit, and it's literally the same competition, just the camera was on one side and then later was on the other, and because of that
yeah.
it didn't make sense in my mind. Of course, I'm the lazy editor that left it because I was like, I don't
Nice.
have a,
Hey,
I didn't find another one.
sound design, it's like black magic to me. I don't understand it. There's another thing. What is it called? Perceived loudness. So you have your decibels or whatever, right? That Premiere After Effects will show you the sound,
Right.
but then there are sounds that literally sound louder and can be lower on the. Anyways, it blows my. I don't know. Uh, that's
But
something else.
Eric
Somebody can
Chapman
explain.
understands that stuff,
Maybe
right?
he can. Yes. Oh God, he can explain that to us.
All right, so I want to look at the stuff that you've done for Legion,
Yeah.
and this is where I think first saw your name associated with as much, I guess I would say, animated graphics. This was it. I think I saw this probably on Instagram, and dude, loved this video.
Yeah.
It was
Thank you.
incredible. Just the amount of, I mean, and I would love to know sort of your process on this, because I think one of the most difficult things of animated graphics is that you're not starting with anything. You know what I mean? Like it's a blank slate. How do you come up with,
Uh,
like, this is what we're going to do? I mean, I would imagine there's probably like a little bit of branding that goes into it, maybe some like, hey, these are the elements we're going to use to make sure there's some like cohesiveness to it. But what
yeah.
is the overall process going from like concept to
So,
actually deciding this kind of stuff?
there's a lot to that concept of starting with nothing, that goes deep, because that is true. I mean, so real quick on, so we have done the Legion stuff for, I guess, the past 5 years.
Right.
I have loved every year. Some years we shoot more live action stuff. Some years we kind of pull back and do kind of motion graphics. This video was just one of those where it was either timing or budget or something just wasn't allowing to do a shoot. So once again, it's like, okay, cool. We need a hype
Bring
video.
in
We can't
Brian.
shoot. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's it. So luckily, we had shot, over 4 to 5 years worth of footage. So I had footage. I just didn't have anything new. And it's like, so how do you make it feel new, right? Um, and I think sitting around, this is one of those where yes, we have the logo, we have the colors, the gold, the black, the pops of red, um, and I want to say in the year previous to this, we had kind of gone into this like, it's been done before, really. This kind of like hand drawn thing with the duotone texture. We just kind of dipped our toe in. I want to say the year before, and so this year, or I guess 2023, it was one that was like, okay, we're going all the way in, right? And so that's what this became. And you start to, I can't remember if I even started in Premiere or After Effects, but um, you start getting the pacing right. And then for me, it's one of those where you got to find the right song. And then the song from, and I'm one of those people where when I start to work on this, I think most people get this. You have to get in the zone. And of course, it's that song over and over and over. And uh, I don't know how, I don't really know how to explain it, but for me, the music drives all of this, right? And so, yeah, it just became this like, okay, I'm using this duotone. I love textures, right? So you've got a bunch of film grain, these hand drawn. Some of those I think are from actually like, a pack that you can find of these like
Right.
X's, right? Saves me a little bit of time, but it doesn't feel stock. Uh, and then a few other ones, I love when like, okay, I'm going to draw myself 5 shields and loop them to where it looks like an animated shield or a hammer. Or, um, some of those things. So yeah, so I don't know if that explains it, but it's basically just kind of getting in there and getting creative. And like I said, for me, I have to find that right track that I'm like, yes, okay, because I'm going to be listening to it a lot, and to me, it kind of just pushes the tone, the pacing, the look. Um, and yeah, I love that one. I love this type of stuff when it works, when it's a combination of footage, live action stuff that we've shot, and then it's like, okay, now how do I mess it up with some graphics?
Well, I like I said, it blows my mind actually how you can go from, like, you've got this shot, right? The shot of this guy staring into the camera, and then you're like, wait a minute, let's go ahead and do these random text, behind him, of handwritten messages, and then let's make these guys pop up, and then hang
Mhm.
on, let's make them pop up with a silhouette of red, and then let's get their image to show in the same kind of style that our main character, our initial shot is, like. And again, let's keep that text going in the background, and let's change it up. And this time, let's do what looks almost like a score sheet.
Mhm.
Like all of that is just, it didn't happen by accident, but at the same time, there was probably some accidents involved in it that it was like, oh,
Oh,
that's good. Let's leave it like that.
the accidents are the best. Yeah, it really. Yeah, no, I mean there are things that we like. Sometimes you'll just bring like, what's the effect? Invert, right? Turn everything, just flip the colors or whatever, and you're like, oh God, that looks like I spent 2 hours to do that when really I just inverted everything. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, no, there are definitely pleasant mistakes that happen. But yeah, a lot of that, and I will say something about this type of stuff that it is very um, detailed, right? You're getting and then you're doing the little things. And once again, it's taken me 17 years to learn where where to put those details and where to focus on this stuff. Um, and a lot of that also through my side projects was I would focus on. So real quick story, when I was doing Beyond Black Mesa, so passionate about it, wanted it to be perfect, all these things. I was literally putting like in a scene where some people are shooting individual bullet holes on a wall that nobody is going to see or care about. It is not going to change the. Oh, that's behind the scenes. That's also my wife. So there she is behind the scenes. Yeah. Anyways,
This one
bullet
you starred
hole.
in yourself, right?
Oh God, yeah. I didn't. Yeah. Only just necessities. Um, but anyways, the for people who are like really getting in there meticulously doing things, you've got to know when you're either just wasting time or um, that little thing is going to make it that much better. Does that make sense? It's taken me many years to figure out kind of where that line is, because you can spend hours animating these every little type in there doing the thing, and it won't really change the overall video.
I
Um,
feel like I mess up things the more I stay in it in
there
general.
you go. Okay, that's a good way. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Um, and then one other. So sorry, these just thoughts. When you say that, that's interesting. Going back to even editing, there was this book I read. What was it called? Video. Shit, it's by this guy Stu Mashowitz. Mashowitz. Um, it's on my Instagram. It was a video. What is it? I can't think of. Anyways, he has this line. He says, and I'm not a Star Trek fan, but
You said it's
uh,
on your Instagram?
yeah, if you scroll down right there. Okay, there it is. DV Rebels video. Let's see. Go back up.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Oh, this right here.
Right there. DV Rebels guide. Something. Yeah. Okay. The DV. Anyways, that's back when you used to shoot on like um, the mini cassette tapes stuff. I mean, there it is, cut like Kirk, not like Spock. And I have always, this has always resonated with me. Man, I love that you can just pull this stuff up. Um,
It's amazing
it's
technology,
awesome.
right?
Wow, look at this. We're in the future. Cut like Kirk, not like Spock. And the way and what that is, and it says in there is, I have tried to always my whole career go with this direction, which is it doesn't always work because you have to um, deal with ROI, what's the return of investment, and statistics, and the click through, and the oh my god, sometimes yeah, it's
The stuff you love, obviously.
what feels right, right? Spock would care about the click throughs and the view rate and the return on investment. Kirk is he's going with his gut, right?
Yeah.
Gut's not always going to be right, um, but there's
Spock's
just
going to have to save your ass at some point
there
because of
you
you
go.
going with your gut.
Oh man, don't say. Yes, that's probably the truth. But I guess I've always felt like that approaching any project conceptually, stylistically is, and it's taken many years to kind of like hone in. Like, whoa, there's times where I'm like, um, I had an idea or vision or whatever, and it just that was not the right way, and I just didn't see it right. I didn't step outside of myself and say, okay, let's look at this neutral. Um, but yes, always kind of just like, man, what feels right? And that's when I think a lot of these projects that you've pulled up is that. What's that thing I believe in? How do I see it? What's the pacing? Yes, that feels right. I'm going to go with that, and then
Yeah.
committing to it. So,
Well,
anyways,
well,
little
it
thing.
feels right to at least this audience member as well.
Yeah,
Like I think you've done some really incredible editing on all of the stuff. But Legion was just one of those. Like I said earlier, it was like the first thing that I saw, and I was like, "Who did the edit on this?" And I was like, "Brian Curtin did the edit on this." Like that's he's good, man. He's really good. I need to know more. And then I met you, and I don't even think I connected those pieces back then. So it's really neat to be able to connect them now and
yeah,
actually talk with you. So all right, we've talked about it already a little bit. Let's go ahead and actually look at this. Tell me about this video in general, because this was sort of the start for you. As of right now, it's got 10 million views. I say start for you, start for your YouTube channel. And as of right now, Concrete Hustle Lightsaber Duel has 10 million views. It's incredible to me that this was 16 years ago. Like that's I mean, like I've been doing this type of work, and I'm talking about like just picking up a camera only for about 6 years. So the and I do it because it's easy now. With like cameras are easier with it not being with the mirrorless kind of stuff, and I would say editing is easier because of the kind of technological
oh yeah,
advances that we've seen in editing software. But before we get into a little bit of details, I do want to bring up a quote that I saw from you. I believe it was in a magazine by UAB or in an article by UAB, which is our both of our alma maters. So go Blazers. But you said in there that it helped this choreography that you had to do. It helped that you and the other actor were moderate break dancers back in the day. Okay, so
oh
I need
man,
you to address, and I tried to find videos of you breakdancing, and unfortunately I was not successful. So please explain this quote, and then the video that it seemed to obviously assist in.
yeah, yeah. No, this is another thing. Back when I was in like high school, played a lot of soccer, and oddly enough, did a lot of breakdancing. I had a few friends where we'd practice in my garage. My brother actually, he showed me. I remember that's how it started. He came home and showed me some kind of weird kind of flip back on your hand move, and I was like, "That's cool." I mean, it's almost like being a
Was this in
ninja.
like the '90s?
Yes. Oh God, yeah. This was so. The reason why there's no footage is probably because we didn't all have cameras on our. Okay, there weren't cell phones back when I was breakdancing.
Right, right.
Um, but
The
we did a
good
lot.
days.
Yes, the good days, yeah. And to me, it was almost like I probably would have really enjoyed gymnastics. And then there was actually back in the day, a few of my friends that I breakdance with, we met this gymnastics teacher who let us come to his his I guess studio, and he'd teach us how to do wall flips and just random stuff. Like, why would you ever need that? I'm like, oh, cool. Well, I'll put that in a movie. So yeah, when we started, this was one of those things where it's like we love Star Wars, and this was back in 2008, kind of the begin. I'm not gonna say beginning of YouTube, but YouTube. It was this was the time when YouTube was not saturated with tons of there's other groups like Corridor Digital and
Right.
all these people who do these. I mean, there's so much out there now.
Right.
But we saw a video of some guys doing this, and we're like, we want to make our own. And it really wasn't that hard. Yes, tracking the lightsabers, and we spent a lot of time on this choreography. And of course, to do the fight scene, of course, we're like going to once again play to your strengths. So I was like, cool, you're going to swing at me here, and I'm going to wall flip off this thing, and then I'm going to twirl over here, And so, and we did it. And this is at the UAB parking deck.
Yeah.
I want to say maybe when school was not happening, and I
Well,
guess we didn't care about anybody seeing us.
from what now
Being
you think back,
embarrassed.
like I should
Yeah,
have
yeah.
cared, but
Like maybe I should have.
from what I understand from the article, this is what you said in the article, is that you started shooting the video without permission in the parking deck, but then later, before it was completed, that you had gotten permission. You had gone through the proper channels. So we'll just assume that that's the way that it happened. Okay.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. You would not have like,
No.
I'm sure you
Yeah.
even got like what are they called? Like a location release
Oh,
or,
totally. 'Cause, yeah, we knew what we were doing, so we would definitely do that.
yeah. No, I love this video. It reminds me a little bit, and I hope you're not offended by this, but it reminds me of the kid with the broomstick. Did you ever
Oh
see
God,
that one?
yes,
That
yes.
video?
Star Wars
That
kid or something. Yeah,
Yeah, the Star Wars kid. That one went viral, and
that was
that's sort of what
about that
this.
time, same time, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean,
Um,
we were
yeah,
probably. I was. I mean, obviously, you were in college at UAB at this time. I'm assuming.
sadly, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
College playing flight saber.
and you said 2008, 2009.
2008 is when this was like put on YouTube.
Okay. When did you shoot it
So we
that
must have been
same
shooting it
year?
in,
Or
yeah, probably around there. Yeah, probably end of 2007.
okay.
And then it took me 6 months or so to put it
I
all
was a
together.
student at UAB during this time.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy because
Great.
I I went to Jeff State for 2 years, and then I did like a Bible college for 2 years, and then ended up going to UAB, and then finishing my undergrad in a condensed 7 year period total. So that's
Nice. Yeah.
I know.
There you go.
Props to me. I
Streamline.
should have been a doctor at that point,
Yeah.
but instead I was a
Um,
history teacher. So
right.
yeah.
Well, so it's so funny. I look at it and it kind of makes me, cringe a little bit. I have good memories. It was our first, it's our. But yeah, there's things where I'm just like, oh God, I can't believe we did this. And there's been many times where, not that I would ever take it down or remove it from remove it from like YouTube. I like the views that it has. But I don't know. It is one of those where it is kind of nostalgic. And I will say, believe it or not, um, I'm not incredibly active on our YouTube channel. We only post a video every 2 years or whatever. But I get messages today of people talking about this man, it's been 16 years. I just watched it again. It still holds up or whatever, and I don't know if it's just people who saw it back in the day and have fond memories of it, or there's just something about it, about how unprofessional it is, but it also feels good. I don't know what it is, but something weird about it feels it's just right, I guess. But it does fascinate that people, will still message me today and say, "Man, when you guys gonna make another one?" Or So.
I think nowadays, especially, it seems with sort of the, I don't know, the generation, I would say now, that is probably 10 years or more behind us. So probably people that are in their like mid 20s to entering their 30s now. It seems like everyone in that generation is sort of nostalgic for the 90s right
Mm.
now. And it may be that they're nostalgic for the 90s because the children of the 90s are sort of in their 40s and 50s, and they're basically like in the position of like making things. So maybe that's
Yeah.
what's pushing the nostalgia for the 90s. But in either case, I think people are almost rebelling against clinical look to things. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like
Mhm.
we see all this texture and overlays, and we've got these cameras that shoot 8K or 12K
Yeah.
now, and yet we're going to make it look like it was shot on a camcorder, or we're literally going to shoot it on a 90s camcorder to get that
Yeah.
kind of vintage vibe
Yes.
to it.
Yeah.
So I think things like this that aren't as clinically clean are things that people want now, you know? So
Yeah. No,
I think
yes.
I
You're
think
onto
there's
something
beauty
there.
to it. So
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And it's one of those, it's funny approaching projects, any of our side projects after that. You always want to make it better. I want to make it look better. I want to make it sound better. I want it to flow better, right? And in a weird way, it sometimes, I want to say actually in that video, we break the 180 rule where I think I'm running one direction and then I cut to my friend Matt Powell and I didn't flip it. So he's running the same direction I'm going. Well, we're supposed to be going at each other. Anyway,
right.
somebody let me know that. So that's another thing that I will ask Caleb or whoever's on set, okay, hold on, hold on. This is an opportunity to break the 180 rule. Are we doing that or not? Anyways.
Yeah.
But
Should we
anyways,
intentionally do that?
there you go. It's those imperfections that also give it character. I don't know. Maybe it's just got a lot of character. So,
Well, and I love seeing people's growth. I mean, I think that's part of the educational background that I come from. Like
yeah.
it's so difficult to see other people that you admire and aspire to maybe be like in some ways. It's so difficult to see them at their level of perfection, so to speak, and not get a chance to go back into the weeds and sort of see, wait a
Yeah.
minute, look at the growth that they've had. And I mean, some people could look at Brian Curtin now and say, "Oh man, look at him. He's so lucky. Look at the job he has. Look at the sort of like things that he gets to create." But then if they look back at your history, they would see it's not about luck. It's about
Mm.
putting in the work. I mean, 16 years ago, you were out there messing with After Effects when no one else. I mean,
Uh,
most people they hadn't done that yet. It was I got really inspired by YouTubers like Peter McKinnon and Matty Hapoya, Jesse Driftwood, that you know I saw and I wanted like I learned from,
yeah.
and here you are 16 years ago doing it before those guys were out there doing it. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have the amount of YouTube content that we've got now. We didn't have
Oh
back
yeah.
then. So props, man.
I love
I
that. I
think what
appreciate
you've
that. Thanks. Yeah.
I think what you've done is incredible. What you are doing is incredible. But I love like keep it out there because I love being able to see that stuff.
Yeah. And I'm going to add one thing to that. What I'm hoping any, people that are uh, watching what you're doing here is if they take anything from it. Um, Even somebody like me who's been doing it 16, 17 years, don't ever think that that person knows what they're doing because we're all kind of just figuring it out like still today, right? The only thing I can write on is 16, 17 years of experience of not do that 180 rule, don't do it, right? But don't, because I look at people too where it's like, man, they have figured it out. They're doing the thing and they know it all and they've got the right. I guarantee they have projects where they're like, I don't know how we're going to pull this off or do this, right? And they just lean on all their things and they somehow, make it happen. Anyways, so I want people to know that like, man, just doesn't matter what kind of work people are doing. We're all kind of just figuring it out, and doing our best. So
I agree. I agree. And I think I appreciate you saying that because Cole and I were literally, while looking through some of your stuff and talking about this interview, um, we were basically questioning in our head a little bit about like what's somebody going to be like that has done all that work. And I think both of us came to the realization that, you know, the kind of work that you've done, although from the outside looking in looks like what, I said earlier in quotation marks, sort of like perfection, right?
Yeah.
But humility usually comes from the paths that we walk, so to speak. And I told him, just based on our communication that you had just on Instagram, just with DMs, it was like, I have a feeling that Brian's going to be a relatively humble person. And I'm not saying that you would ever say that about yourself, but just in general, like understanding the challenges, and also
Oh,
not being this guy that I've got all the answers. Like you just
yeah.
said, you're figuring it out. We all are.
Like even that, the Legion one you had pulled up. I swear I go into every project sometimes. Uh, and I work with Allie Clark at Big. It's somebody you should probably talk to. Does really great work. She has a similar thing. If we go into these projects where we're just terrified of like, okay, how are we going to do this, right? And then it turns into that. Maybe it's the fear that pushes the. But yeah, I would say most projects we go and we're like, I don't know how we're going to do this or make this good, and then it's somehow you're like, you come out at the end, right? You come out of the coma or the blackout, and then you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I like that. That's nice.
You should probably be afraid whenever you're working with somebody that's overly confident. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
There you go.
I
Yeah.
think somebody that's overly confident is probably going to set you up for disappointment potentially. So at least
Yeah,
I'd be
that's
more
it.
worried about that, because they're not going to work as hard to make sure that the
Yeah,
product
maybe
is as
that's
good.
yeah. There you go.
So
That's another way to say it. Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. That's
Yeah.
me just BSing my way through this
No,
conversation. So
I like it.
all right.
Yeah.
I want to respect your time. We've already been on here
Okay. Yeah.
over an hour, almost an hour and a half. And so I do want to respect your time, but I've got to put this image up there because I think it's incredible. And also, I do think this is a great question. And I probably am going to skip ahead to just like one last question after this.
Okay.
But if you don't mind, just tell me what are some of your greatest challenges, and feel free to touch base on this photo if you'd like to as well.
Um, that's our dog, Indy. He's actually 16 years old. He's getting old.
Oh wow, yeah. I had a beagle that
Uh,
lived to about 18 or almost 19
wow.
years old, but yeah,
I'm hoping
yeah.
he's got a lot. This is an old photo, so he's got a lot more gray in that black.
Don't
Um,
we all? Don't we all?
and I think this was just at work, and I just switched the heads. I thought it was funny, kind of
Oh, it's
creepy.
great. Yeah.
Um, and then, oh, challenge, biggest challenge. One I would say, and I feel like Brian, you've mentioned it too. Um, it's the man just balancing life and work and the creative, what I call the creative itch. A lot of the side project stuff, passion projects, anything on Infectious Designer has brought great fulfillment, enjoyment. Most of the stuff I do that I get paid for, right, at Big, I learned most of those tricks doing those side projects. You don't really have time on the paid job, if that makes sense. You're there to just do the thing and get it done as quick as possible. We needed it yesterday.
Right.
So there's no room to play. Um, and I would say the only reason I've lasted in the advertising agency for this long is due to those side projects. You need a place for creative freedom. Um, and that's all that those are is we want to just do this thing. You have nobody telling you, we'll change that red to blue or make it shorter, make it longer, make it quieter. Anyways, so that's an outlet that kind of keeps me alive, to be able to kind of do the other grind. But really, I would get say, yeah, I mean, the challenge is definitely that it's you have this creative itch of you just got to do this thing, but that's going to take you away either mentally, physically, um, right? You only have so much time, space, energy, um, and so it's just being smart about how do you, yeah, fulfill that creative itch, um, do well in your career, and then also put your time where it's really important, right? The which is family time, you know. And it's taken me, you know, I'm once again still trying to figure it out. Um, how do I balance all of that? That I would say that's my biggest challenge. Because you feel like if you're not doing that creative project or you're not pushing that project for far enough at work, I'm going to be less valuable, or I'm not going to get paid, and I'm not going to be able to provide. But then if I'm doing that, oh, I missed my child's graduation because I was on a shoot, or you know, it's so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it. The balance of just, uh, like I said, it's taken me many years. Uh, my projects mean a lot to me, but also at the end of the day, the really fulfilling thing is, you know, shooting Nerf guns with Lucas in the backyard, or you know,
Yeah.
and that's just something, you know, yeah, turning 40 and having a family is different than um, I have different perspectives than me smacking my friends with lightsabers in a parking garage, you know. So, um, but yeah, I guess that's yeah, that'd be the biggest challenge: balance. You know, balancing it all out. Yeah, I
I
think that's
definitely think I think that's probably, especially if you do anything outside of your normal 8 to 5 or whatever your normal job is. That's it's really tough. I have to show great appreciation to my wife. She's sacrificed a lot over the years with me because I do like freelance side stuff sometimes, as well as
yeah.
I do a few passion projects here and there that takes time and takes me away from my kids and even more so and I would say probably for you as well, the editing of stuff. I mean, we it's great that you can do it anywhere nowadays with the computers and the power that most of these, even just a laptop has. But at the same time, like I've sat there next to my child talking to me while editing, and then they get done and I have no idea what they just said to me. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm present, but I'm not present because of the access that I have to a really powerful tool, which is great and
Yes. Yeah.
horrible all at the same time, especially in light of family.
That was one thing I never quite realized was yes, you can be physically present and not mentally or whatever, you know. And my wife would do the same. You know, it's like you're thinking about power armors or something, instead of eating dinner, and that was one of the things where I was totally unaware of it. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, you're right, yeah. So really, everybody if anybody has enjoyed any of my projects or the projects I've worked on, thank my wife for helping, because really um, uh, she's put in just as much work as I have. So to make them
Definitely.
happen.
My wife actually said that I need to have wives of creators on a
Oh no! Oh
podcast
god!
episode.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid she
Oh
would just use it
man.
to just like set me straight.
Yep. Yep. I'd probably just stop making all my stuff. No,
No,
I
no.
feel so
Yeah,
guilty. Yeah.
she's definitely sacrificed a lot over the years. My wife has, and I imagine yours has as well. If nothing else, they put up with us rambling about
That's
technical stuff that they don't care anything about, and they just
yes.
shake their head
Yeah.
and act
Yeah.
like they're
That's great.
listening.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's touch on one last question. Who inspires you today? And I really like to ask this about people that you are close with, people that you work alongside, because for me, I hope that this question can first of all give insight into the amazing people that you work alongside or that you sort of expose yourself to, but also hopefully it leads to maybe a future conversation for me and for the Creating Creators
Yeah.
podcast.
I kind of have a small list of people. Let me just go through it real quick.
Okay.
So one that I've just never spoken to, they don't know me, but I just want to put it out there for anybody who might be interested. Is a guy, probably one of my biggest inspirations for just these kind of like video game inspired videos. His name's Henry Hobson, and he's I think in the UK. But he works with like PlayStation, and a lot of his work, even 8 years ago, he has taken um, video game worlds, brings it into live action, and just makes it compelling and amazing.
Is
He's
he
basically
one
one of
that
those
I
people that,
could, would I
yeah,
be
it
able to
should be.
find him on
Yeah, it should be.
Instagram?
Henry Hobson.
I've got a Henry Hobson that says filmmaker, art designer, director of Maggie, based in Los Angeles, represented by MJZ, US, UK,
Should be.
henryhobson.com is this guy's website. Sorry, I know. I want to pay respect to
Yeah,
him.
no,
Okay.
Henry. Yeah, Henry Hobson, director. Yeah. Um,
Henry Hobson,
just amazing work.
director.
Basically, the like he is. Everybody's got their like, I want to be doing the work that he's doing. That is the guy I have followed for just years. Um, he's doing it right. So that's one. Another person that I've worked with, he actually did the sound design on. Yep, yep, that's his stuff.
Okay.
A guy, Gavin Little. He's Echo Lab, goes by Echo Lab. He does sound design and music, and he actually did the sound on our most recent Fallout 76 um, short. I've worked with him. He is one of those people that, people where you're just like, you have a thing. You just, I don't know what you can't teach it. You just can't, right? He's got it. He works with Nike, uh, all the brands, and does also like video game trailers and stuff. Um, just amazing, talented guy, super nice, and he's from Ireland. Anyways, those two uh, big dogs, and then daily, like I said, I think somebody that you should really talk to is Allie Clark. Um, she works at Big, and even her husband Bradford. They have stuff on Netflix right now. It's Butterfly in the Sky. It's a documentary on reading Rainbow. Uh,
Oh yeah,
they did
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's like on Netflix right now. And Allie is just incredibly talented motion designer, animator, creative, um, and she'd be a good person to talk to. She's a great
Yeah.
communicator. That, and then one other person that I haven't worked with in a long time, but I worked with on a lot of projects. Taylor Robinson with 6'5" Productions here.
Yes. Yes. Now
Um,
is Taylor Robinson the owner of 6'5"?
yes, I
He's like the
believe
really
yes.
tall guy.
He really
Yeah.
tall. Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
six foot
Yeah.
five guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've worked with him. Great guy, man. He's a character. Talented. Um, uh, those people. Those are the people that you're trying to keep up with. So,
Yeah. I'll
and then
definitely
yeah,
I'll
and
definitely
that's
check out Allie Clark. I have
yep.
not come across her, at least that I know of by name. I may know her by work if I start getting into some of her
Oh yeah,
stuff. But
yeah.
the 6'5", like he was part of what was it called? It was like a stories thing in like storytelling in Birmingham. They used to do
Arc stories or
art
no?
stories. That was it. Yeah,
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 yeah. He's just both of them just creative people, right?
yeah.
Just um, and I'm probably missing some others, but I also feel like you've already talked to a lot of people that I may have said. So, um, yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Hopefully that helps.
Definitely, definitely. Well, listen, I really appreciate Brian you just taking the time today to talk with me. I think your stuff that you've been doing with infectious design is really incredible, and I love to see it. I love the fact that you're investing that time into your craft. Probably not just time. I'm sure you've invested a lot of money into your craft, and I think that's something that we can all learn from. And on top of that, your full time job at Big. I mean, you're doing some incredible stuff, working with some incredible people, and I really appreciate just your kindness, your encouragement that I've received, and just your time that you've given up today to talk with me.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Let me know however else I can help, So this was fun.